Welcome and thank you for joining us for another edition of the Class Agent webinar series. I'm Sean Daly, Director of Annual Giving. My colleague Ryan Stewart, Director of Class Giving, will also be presenting today. We're pleased to have two volunteers joining us, Miles Alderman, Class of 82, and Kristen Meister, Class of 2000. Miles is the Chair of the Kenyon Fund Executive Committee and the parent of two current Kenyon students, and Kristen is Vice Chair of the Kenyon Fund Executive Committee and next year's Kenyon Fund Chair. Miles and Kristen, we're grateful to you for being with us today and for your time and leadership throughout the year.
Thank you, Sean. I want to thank Sean and Ryan for helping put this together, Kristen for her time, and I want to thank each of you volunteers for joining us this afternoon.
So this is the second in our 2013-14 Class Agent webinar series. If you missed the first one, it was a summary of the results of the 2013 Alumni Survey. And there are also 3 webinars from last year that are available on the Alumni portal by selecting Groups, Class Agents, then Class Agent Webinars. So I hope you'll take a moment to check out those webinars that you weren't able to attend. Today we'll be recapping the results of a fantastic 2012-13 fiscal year. We'll be looking at goals and strategies for this year and discussing how we can work together more efficiently and effectively. And then, as Ryan mentioned earlier, we'll end with a question and answer session. So at this point, I'd like to invite Miles to share some of the results from last year.
Thank you, Sean. Do we have the next slide? There we go.
Yeah, there we go.
Thank you. Great. One of the things that was a key concern for us is the engagement of the alumni. We know that the Kenyon alumni are loyal. We all are engaged, but one of the questions is, what are the metrics? One issue, we have 3 times as many alumni shared news and happenings with their classmates last year as the prior years from 2011, 2012. This is important it's a way for alumni to connect with the college. It also bolsters readership of the class letter and the alumni bulletin where those notes appear. We also had a 33% increase in the number of alumni who attended an event. Many of these individuals also supported the Kenyon Fund, which helped propel the fund itself to new heights. And we want to continue on this good work.
Yeah, thanks, Miles. So as Miles mentioned, we had a good increase in the Kenyon Fund last year, 5.5%, and the dollar value of contributions, which is wonderful. We're always happy to have more resources for our academic mission. But we were particularly excited last year about the tremendous increase in the number of donors. Class agents, and we attribute this to you solely, helped us round up 1,000 new and lapsed first-time donors or reactivated donors, and that just really makes a huge difference for us. It builds a much brighter future for us if we have more alumni donating to the fund. And then you can see that helped propel us to a 4-point increase in participation to 40%, and we had an additional 2 percentage points of alumni that gave to other purposes at the college, maybe the endowment or the Kenyon Review or something like that didn't support the Kenyon Fund. So we had 42% of our alumni made a gift to any purpose, which leads our Ohio peers.
While we were leading the Ohio peers, as you can see from this slide, when we look at the national peers, which Kenyon is competing and looks, you'll see that in terms of both the volunteer ratio, 1 to 80, and also the participation ratio, which was at 42%, we didn't do as well as some of the peer colleges. And you know, we look at those 2 numbers, the participation and the ratio of volunteers to total alums, and there clearly is a correlation there. Thank you, Sean. You're seeing at the bottom of the screen the number change. Due to increased number of class agents and other volunteers, the ratio is improving. And we've moved from 1 volunteer per 80 alums to a 1 to 41 ratio. We're now, instead of at the bottom of this list, we're between Hamilton and Carleton. we anticipate that that should lead to an appropriate increase in participation. And you'll see next to participation number, you've got arrows, red down or green up. That's showing the direction of the movement over the past year. You'll see that the two that went up were Kenyon and Middlebury. We're happy with this. Wouldn't say that we are resting on the laurels. We really want to keep going. We'd like to see the participation number get to 50%. We'd like to see the volunteer ratio continue to improve. And that, of course, is where all of the volunteers come in. And it's an important job we're all doing.
Yeah, Miles, I'd like to just add one little thing. Ryan, go back one slide. So what this really means, what it translates to, is if every volunteer says, I'll call 16 of my classmates, they can reach their entire alumni body. So sort of many hands makes light work. It makes it easier to reach more people. And we finished 2 years ago at 1 to 80. We finished last year at 1 to 49. So we almost doubled the number of volunteers in a single year. And that's really what drove us from 36% participation to 42%. So just wanted to add that in there. I think it's just a testament to how important volunteers are, and we're certainly grateful for everything that our class agents have done for us. So at this time, let's turn it over to Ryan and Kristen to cover goals and objectives for the coming year.
Hello again, everyone. Thanks for coming out today. This year, we're continuing our expansion of the class agent program, aiming to add an additional 100 agents on top of last year's great growth. Our ultimate goal is a ratio of 1 to 27 from volunteers to alumni by 2015. But to keep this rapid growth manageable and to really help maximize our Kenyon funding engagement goals, we need to create tools, systems, and partnerships to effectively utilize what each one of you brings to the table. And to that end, we're organizing class efforts. One way is, two major tools that we've developed have been consistent, continuing class agent assignments that focus on developing relationships and a by-class tracking device that we call a dashboard. At the end of the day, we want to empower you as class agent teams to use your own initiative and skills to focus on engaging your peers and classmates while we here on staff take care of the logistics and the background work.
Good afternoon, everybody. If you've ever served on your reunion committee, you're familiar with the process of dividing the class up between the committee members and then following up with those individuals throughout the year. While the non-reunion years don't have the same emphasis on giving, it's still helpful for the college to have a point person or a relationship manager for those individuals. As you can see from the slide, approximately 20% of alumni are assigned to a class agent or reunion committee member. We hope to improve that number to 50%, as Miles said earlier, by the end of the year. It's a simple process. Just tell Ryan who you know and feel comfortable following up with on a multitude of engagement tasks, and the college will take care of the rest.
Thanks, Kristen. So moving on from assignments, we see here our dashboard. This dashboard provides a number of things. The motivation of having a specific goal. You see here 6 different options of where agents can help and where they feel comfortable. The ability to focus efforts on the right alumni by providing specific engagement data. You can see who submitted a note, who hasn't, who's a volunteer, who is not. And last but not least, the satisfaction of definitive results. So you can point exactly and say, I helped Kenyon this way. But let's go over each one of these areas since they correspond to our specific goals for the coming year. Here you see event attendance. Going to a regional event is a powerful way to refresh connections and keep alumni engaged. We're aiming to increase attendance overall by 50% this year. So we pick that to your last non-reunion year attendance, and hopefully we'll get that increase. And then you see here the Kenyon Fund, obviously. The overall college goal is 43.022%. I hope you've seen the brochures or our mailings. It will vary by class depending on your giving history and how many of you can give still. But you see, we want to keep our momentum from last year going. We had a very good year last year, and success breeds success. Hopefully we'll see that it gets to, that when we get closer to 50, that it was easier than it was for us to get to 40%. And then also class notes, shooting for a 10% increase in your classmates keeping in touch. I myself enjoy getting my class letter and keeping up with everyone, seeing what's new with them. And additionally, when an alum submits a class note, they become twice as likely to support the college, either financially or in another way. And then volunteering. If we recruit 27 more class agents this year, we'll hit our goal of 100 for the year. And then if every class actually recruited one more, we double that. So we're set there, and just need some effort from the individual agent teams to find one more person who they like to be on their team. And then you also have the alumni directory. This is a great tool on our alumni portal. It has alumni contact info, career networking, affinity group information, and like emails. We really want to see our alumni take advantage of this tool. So what we're shooting here is to maintain yearly average of enrollment, because every year, hopefully, the pool will shrink a bit, and we can get everyone on it. And then lastly, voting for our elected representatives. A lot of Kenyon graduates go out there and change the world and are really involved in the big picture. Sometimes we forget that we can change things back here on the Hill by voting and being involved too. Currently, voting is quite low, so we've teamed up with the Alumni Council and alumni and parent programs to hopefully double the amount of alumni voting in elections, which may sound like a lot, but is a very doable number. And now, to kind of change track, let's take a look at a new website that we're producing for alumni to use. Let me pull it up here.
So Kenyon will soon roll out an interactive microsite that you see here that helps alumni explore the impact the Kenyon Fund has on various aspects of the college. The site's still under development, but we'll take a sneak peek right now. Ryan, let's take a look at residence life. So each section that you can go into has a fun video where you see play video, a quiz that alumni can take and then share their score on Facebook and Twitter, forward it through email, and alumni can leave their mark, as Ryan just showed you, by sharing memories of Kenyon that then scroll at the bottom of the page. And the site will also include an honor roll of alumni who have contributed to date.
Are you there, Sean?
Yeah, I am. I just have my microphone muted. So this is sort of like similar heads up like the microsite. The Kenyon Fund Executive Committee and the college have been talking about the possibility of a participation challenge sometime in the future. You'll recall that a couple years ago for the last year of the campaign, we had the $1 Million Trustee Challenge where the trustees agreed to match new and increased gifts to the fund, and that really drove new and increased gifts. This time around, I think we're looking at the possibility of having a participation challenge. So there's lots of different ways you could structure it. If we get to 43%, the trustees or a group of alumni give us some, or $25 for each new donor is contributed to the college. So there's lots of different ways that we could structure it. But right now what we're doing is just trying to figure out what the best idea would be and the best time to implement it. We'd like to see us continue the momentum that we have without implementing a challenge, but I suspect that at some point we will plateau. So our goal for this year is 43% participation, but our 30-year high is 45%. So we want to use that challenge at sort of at the point where we're starting to plateau, but we also don't want to lose momentum. So we're trying to find just the right time to implement it. We've talked about the possibility of this spring. We've talked about the possibility of next spring. And of course, there are every other possible idea is still on the table, which would include not doing a challenge. So essentially what we're asking right now is just for your feedback, your thoughts, your ideas. We will prompt you for this in emails in the future as we lead up to the next meeting of the Kenyon Fund Executive Committee in February. But if you have thoughts in the meantime, ideas, we would love to hear them. You can email me at dalius@kenyon.edu or miles@alderman@hallorandsage.com. We'd love to hear any thoughts you have. Miles, anything you want to add on that?
Two things I'd like to add. First, I want to make sure that all the volunteers know that we really mean it when we say we want your feedback, because this is about us as alumni reaching out to our fellow alumni, and feedback from you is important, and that includes ideas on the best way to do a challenge or whether to do a challenge. The other thing is there may be a question of what we mean by a challenge, and just want to explain just briefly. The idea is that if we see that there's a loss in momentum, to be able to go out and present to classmates that if we hit certain benchmarks, for example, a certain increase in the level of engagement, that in response to the increased participation, there might be an additional amount of money given, whether it's by trustees or another source. And so that's the general framework. In the past, we've used challenges where if we hit certain dollar amounts of revenue given, if people give a certain amount, if a person who has been donating increases their gift, trustees may do something else. We're looking here for participation, so we're talking about a challenge in which there may be a challenge where if we hit certain participation numbers, more money would be made available.
Okay, thanks, Miles.
Anything else you want to add on that, Sean?
No, I think that's great. I think the key there is that what will make a challenge successful is having all our class agents support it. So we want you on board. We want you to help shape what that challenge might be, not just implement some challenge that will be handed to you. So please take an active role, give us your thoughts, your ideas, and we look forward to hearing from you on that.
And that leads us to the all-important what next slide. After this presentation, Kenyon can use your support in 4 major ways. The first way is to spread the word about that marker site that we showed you once we get it up and running, and send it to your friends, get them engaged, see if it can be a fun little tool to enjoy. Second, if you select your class assignments, because next year, hopefully next fall, we'll be rolling out our online volunteer management system, and we'd like that to be ready from day 1. We'll be demoing that in the near future, but if we get all of those assignments in, it will pre-populate. You'll see your friends who has to be thanked for giving, who has been engaged, etc. And then you can also follow up with your friends about end-of-year gifts for Kenyon, end of calendar year. So you can support the Kenyon Fund by emailing them, by letting us email them on your behalf, giving them a phone call, and last but not least, you can also make a gift yourself and share the news with your friends. Lead by example. And then as Miles and Sean were talking about, please send us your thoughts on the participation challenge. We would really value them and want to hear from you. At this time, we're going to open the floor to questions. Just because there's so many of you, we're going to have to do a little system here. If you have a microphone built into your computer or laptop, feel free to click the hand icon, and we'll unmute you so you can ask a question. Alternately, you can type your question into the question box there on your little sidebar, and we'll read the question and respond, so feel free to fire away. Any brave souls?
Well, Laura Gerke, class of 2010, has said hello to everyone. So hello, Laura.
And it's completely understandable if you're all a little... go ahead, Laura.
Hey everyone, it's Laura Gerke of 2010. Thank you for the shout out, by the way. I just have a quick question about the event in February. Can you just speak more to the group that is the group of alumni who are involved in that Kenyon Fund system, and what I know they come every September and February, but what do they do during those weekends, and what's the goal?
Miles, you want to take that one?
Yes.
You still there, Miles?
Helpful if I turn mute off, wouldn't it?
Easy to do. Happens to the best of us.
Yeah. So what Kenyon Fund Executive Committee is doing in February is we're getting together and working on the general business of the Kenyon Fund, which is Kenyon's annual fund. And during the meeting, several things happen. We get a report from Sean and other staff members on what is happening and what are new issues that need attention. We also have meetings and breakout meetings where members of the Kenyon Fund Executive Committee sort of brainstorm on what we're doing right, what we can do better, and how we can best support the school. And then usually at the end of the February meeting, there's usually an opportunity for us to break out and do a telethon and spend a little bit of time reconnecting with some of our classmates and friends and reminding them that the school is still in Gambier and could still use some support. But the primary mission is to help support the college, and there's another piece which is, it's kind of fun for those of us who are on the committee to get back to Gambier, and there's work you can do face to face. It's a lot easier than if you try to just do it by telephone.
Yeah, we also.
Do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I was going to say we have 3 standing committees that do more specific tasks. So there's a message team that looks at the content of our videos, our appeals, just adds the alumni perspective that sometimes staff can lose working here in our offices, so that make sure that we're saying the right things. There is a volunteer team that would help lay out ideas like the webinar that we're having today, and what that series of webinars might be for the year. What else we might ask class agents to do, so some of those tasks. And then there's a 2024 team that's forward-looking and long-term strategies to build an engaged alumni body and to ultimately reach 50% alumni participation. So looks like we have another couple other questions in.
Yeah, Bill, you have a question. I'll mute you if you could go ahead and ask it. Bill Russell?
I don't have a microphone.
Oh, we hear you on the phone.
We hear you. You're all set.
I'm sorry. I said it was going to be yeah, I just wanted to know, in terms of perspective, what is the total alumni body, the size of the alumni body?
It's about 17,000, Bill, approximately living alumni that are addressable. There would be some others that we've lost somewhere along the way. We don't have an address for them, but about 17,000 addressable alumni, and we ask about 16,200 of those to support the Kenyon Fund. So there's a small group that, for whatever reason, is not interested in staying connected with the college or supporting the Kenyon Fund. So that's kind of how it breaks down. But total, we've had about 17,000 living alumni.
Right. And a follow-up to that then is what is the impact on the Kenyon Fund of gifts to the college that are designated for other purposes? For example, I contribute to a scholarship, so it doesn't. I don't get credit for contributing to the Kenyon Fund. But how does that distort your numbers, or does it?
Well, I mean, it can. When we go into a campaign, sometimes there's a challenge there as donors shift their Kenyon Fund support to other initiatives, buildings that we're building. For the most part, most alumni that support the other causes like endowments also tend to make a smaller gift to the Kenyon Fund. In the end, for participation, it doesn't matter as long as you're making any gift to Kenyon. We're happy, and we're counting that in our participation figures. The Kenyon Fund, I mean, we always want to get to where what we set for the goal for the year is essentially what we need to raise to balance the budget. So there is sort of a trick to filling that particular bucket. But it's never been too much of an issue before. As long as alumni are giving to something, we're happy. So
I'm going to go ahead and move on to Owen here. Owen, you had a question if you'd like to ask it? I'll read it for him. So he asked, what is the best method to indicate who we know and would be comfortable adding to our contact list? That's actually in my lane. I've been working with the non-reunion agents to push out lists of your classmates to you, and that you'll sign up or select who you feel comfortable either asking to get involved with the Career Development Center to support Kenyon or for a class note. So I'll re-engage with the lead agents or with the entire teams to make sure that you're all aware of that and see the Excel spreadsheet or the report, and then can send the names back to me, and I'll get it coded in our system.
Okay. Yeah, we'll prompt all class agents on that again. So Liz McClanahan, why don't we try unmuting her, see if she's available. If not, we'll read her question.
Are you there, Liz?
Yeah, am I here? Can you hear me?
Yep.
Go ahead.
You're good.
Oh, hey. Well, my question was, I just was wondering what the data on past participation challenges is. And I realize you want to do it as a re-engagement thing, but is there a significant increase in the annual fund giving when you do these challenges?
Yes, challenges almost always work. If they're structured properly, they will. They are effective. I'll give you an example. We had about 10, 12 years ago, we were trying to increase participation in the Parents Fund, so current parents. And we had about 23% participation, and the members of the Parents Advisory Council, which is kind of a combination of, it's the parents equivalent of like Kenyon Fund Executive Committee and Alumni Council combined. So they said, well, let's do a challenge. If we can get 500 new donors in the last couple months of the year, let's all throw in some money and just say, if we can get couple hundred donors, we'll give $5,000 more. So we took that out to the alumni body, and we went from like 23% participation, even though our goal was like to get to 30, we went from 23 to 43% in 1 year. We were like, well, this works, let's do it again. And of course, you have to remember on the parent side, there's a much shorter memory. It's kind of 4 years and they're done. It's not like a lifetime. With the alumni. So we're like, okay, let's do the challenge again. And then that year we went to like 46, and then by the 4th year that we did the challenge, we were at 54% participation. And in the 7 or 8 years since then, we've only fallen below that level one time. So yes, they can be very, very effective. On the alumni side, there's also sort of the issue of you can have sort of challenge fatigue. You just can't do a challenge every year on the alumni side. So yes, it will be effective if we structure it just right. And of course, there's all sorts of varying levels of effectiveness. But if we take something out to the alumni body with the class agents and the trustees and alumni affairs and annual giving behind it, it will have an impact.
Yeah, just to reinforce, there's no doubt that challenges are effective. The Parents Fund has a real advantage because they have new freshman parents every single year, which means Parents Fund can probably do a challenge every year, and it's always new to at least a quarter of the audience. We don't have that advantage, and so the question that we've discussed at length is how often is too often? We know challenges are good. We also don't want to dilute the message to the point that there's a challenge every 6 months.
Okay. Will Reed has a question, so let's go ahead and open up the floor. Are you there, Will?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you.
Yep. We at our 50th reunion, and then later in discussing on the phone, the older alumni are very concerned about the cost of higher education and wondering what Kenyon is doing to address that question, if anything. The worry, of course, is can our grandchildren afford a Kenyon?
Sure. Well, I understand that, and of course we hear that a lot. And you'll even hear Congress and the President voicing concerns about that. Last year we implemented a plan to essentially begin matching inflation, or the historical average of inflation. Last year our tuition increase, or 2 years ago, was 4%, and the idea was to roll it down 0.25% each year. So this year our tuition increase was 3.75%. And then I think next year, I'm not sure we'll be able to take it all the way down to 3.5. It might be something lower, like 3.6 or something like that, 3.7. So we're working on it. We're trying to do that. Of course, there are lots of other things that go into it, but one of the things that the issues that we have is that new technology does not make the cost of a Kenyon education less expensive the way that it would a car. We're labor intensive, and technology tends to add expenses rather than adding efficiency. So we're a little bit different than some of the other manufacturing and different industries that way, but we're doing everything we can. I think President Decatur could probably offer more remarks to that effect and tell you more things that we're doing. So perhaps we'll try and get a message out there to class agents on what we're doing about that. But it is something that we're definitely looking at. And of course, the other aspect of that is to try and bolster your resources for financial aid. So we're doing that as well.
Does anyone else have any questions, ideas, concerns? Feel free to either shoot us a question here or raise your hand and we'll unmute you. We'll give it a little.
It's Friday afternoon, Ryan. They're ready to go home, and it's snowing heavily here in Gambier, so we won't belabor the question and answer session any longer.
And that brings us to the end. As you see from our phone-a-thoners here, we want to thank you for your service to Kenyon. We're grateful for everything you do. It can be a thankless job at times, but you guys all step up to the plate, and you help make Kenyon what it is. As Miles said, I believe, in his letter with the annual report, your gifts and what you create has the same effect as adding $75 million to the endowment. We'll be in touch via email after this to facilitate the next steps in engagement and alumni participation. As always, though, if you have any questions, feel free to email me or give me a call. I'm usually quick about getting back, and we'll talk about it and see what we can do. So thank you again, and I hope that you all have a good weekend.
Thanks, everyone.